Okay, this card, as you can see, is a 7 of batons. We've got 6 here and 1 here. And I hope I don't confuse you with this one, because I think what I'm going to be doing is talking about one type of meaning, and then later on I want to switch it and talk about the opposite. And I think this is one of the cards where you, the reader, need to make up your mind about what it means. And I think I'm going to be saying later that I think it has one. It's useful to think of it as having one meaning when it's upright and a very different one when it's upside down, rather than being a delay, which you can get from a card being upside down. So if we take it, if we glance at it first, it looks like a card of defense, because the person's here, and you've got these people who look as if, because of the way he's standing, it looks as if these people are attacking him or threatening him in some way. So there is the idea of an attack or a potential attack or a threat, but the fellow has it covered. You know, he's able to defend himself. He's able to adopt a defensive position, and so it looks like defense or self-defense. And this can mean, for instance, if you're going to have an interview, ask the question: have you done all that you can do to defend yourself? Have you looked at what other people who have an influence can do or might want to do that would threaten you? And have you taken steps to negate their influence or to deny them power in the situation? And it could be a simple thing like, if you're going to have an interview and your hands are sweaty, you know, don't go in with sweaty hands. Wipe them on your jacket or something. And that's sort of self-defense as well, because you're controlling or doing what you can to control the impression that you give people. A wet handshake is probably not as good as a dry handshake. And knowing that, dry your hand in some way before the interview. The other thing is that maybe before let's go back to the interview or whatever it happens to be, take a moment to center yourself, so that when you go in to begin the negotiation, or you go in to start the meeting, or to begin whatever it is that you're going to begin, you're sort of centered. Okay, I forgot to turn off the telephone. Hang on. Okay, usually I make a point of turning off the telephone. And so let's say it was significant. So with this card, make sure you haven't forgotten to do certain things before you begin. Okay? So let's say you're having a meeting. Make sure you've got the handout that you want to give people. And maybe with this card, you need a checklist. So you've got a little list that you put together to make sure that you don't forget something that's important. Because you think here, you're on top. And maybe your thought is on defending yourself. And so because you're thinking about defending yourself, you can forget about important matters because you've been distracted, or your attention is somewhere else, or it's a place other than where it ought to be. And so this is the thing. We've got... let me go back to one other point and then come back to this point again. So it can this card, because you get 6 here and 1 here, it can indicate a situation where you're overcoming the odds, because it's 6 against 1, right? So if and that can mean that there are difficulties to be overcome, but even though there are several difficulties to be overcome, you're going to be successful. Because if you look at the fellow, he's got the higher ground. He's up here, right? And so this is a kind of probable success, because he's on the higher ground. He's got the advantage of being in the stronger position. Because if you sort of step back from here, let's say you got 6 people down here, they're holding the baton, but they're holding the bottom end of it, and you can't really do much damage if you think about it. Let's say you've got a 5-foot piece of wood, and you're holding the bottom 6 inches, right? You know, you can't really do much, especially reaching up this way. If you're standing on even ground, you can swing the baton back and forth and hurt people. But the fact that he's above them and looking down, and they really can't do much to him. And that's partly why I was saying at the beginning, I hope I don't confuse you, because on the one hand it looks like defense and the need for defense and self-defense. But at the same time, there's really nothing to be afraid of, because these people really can't damage this individual up here. And I think you, the reader, need to decide what you want this card to mean. And I'll come back to that. So it can be success against the odds, right? 6 against 1. But it's a card of probable success because he does have the advantage. And it sort of looks good and it looks fortunate and it's okay as far as it goes. So let's say you're going for an interview. You've got the higher ground. You've got the advantage. You may not know it, you may not realize it, but you've got an awful lot going for you. So let's say you're going to an interview. Maybe you've already done the job or you have experience in that area, whereas the other candidates for the same job don't have your first-hand experience. So you've got the advantage, you've got the upper hand, even if you don't know it. So, looking at the way this fellow's standing, and the fact that he doesn't really need to defend himself, right, because these people are weak compared to what he's got, maybe the card is telling us that the person here isn't as perceptive or isn't as shrewd as he thinks he is, because he's standing here defending himself, but the attackers can't do much. So the way he's standing and the way he's preparing himself isn't really sensible, right? Because the people can't really do him that much harm. And that can be a factor, or that can be part of the meaning that you have to figure out with the question and with the questioner. And so I said at the beginning about confusing me, because now I want to say maybe this is deliberate. And I think you have to ask the question, look at the other cards to figure out what's going on. Because maybe it's deliberate, and maybe he's standing this way to make a point. He knows, it may be that he knows he can't be harmed, but he's standing like this anyway, and really disregarding his enemies. I'm thinking of a boxer, can't remember who it was. It may have been Muhammad Ali or some heavyweight boxer. And he's fighting his opponent. And in order to defeat the opponent mentally as well, boxers usually stand with their fists protecting their face and their arms at the side protecting the body. And I think it was Muhammad Ali, and he dropped his guard and he dropped his hands to his waist, and he stood there and he jumped around a bit, and he sort of stuck his chin forwards as if to say, come on, try and punch me if you can. And the opponent would lash out and try and punch him in the face, and he would just sort of ease back. I think it was maybe his float like a butterfly, sting like a bee in the early days. And so he would stand there and he would jump around and keep his balance on his feet. And when the other person attacked, he would just lean back and he would lean out of range of the punch. And it's a bit like this fellow here, who's maybe saying to his enemies, you know, I'm ready for you, but you really can't touch me. And so I think that's why this is a difficult card, and you, the reader, need to know whether he knows what he's doing. If he knows what he's doing, then this is him pretending that he needs to defend himself. If he doesn't know what he's doing, then he thinks he needs to defend himself. So there's no real threat, but the person's acting as if there is. So the question is the questioner misreading the situation? And maybe when the card is upright, we say, when the card is upright, you're seeing clearly what's going on, and you're pretending to defend yourself, but you know there's really no need. When it's upside down, you're misreading the situation. You think there are troubles, you think that problems are going to arise, but they're not. And so maybe you need to ask the questioner, when this card comes up, upright or reversed, ask the person if they're sure about what they're doing, or sure about what they're thinking, or sure that what they believe to be true is actually true, or are they